Life will test you. It will push you to your limits, summoning storms that rattle the very foundations of who you believe you are. You will face setbacks that make the ground beneath you feel uncertain, and moments that shake you to your core. In the deafening noise and suffocating pressure of these moments, a single quality will decide your fate: your ability to remain calm. A calm mind is not a weak mind. It is the sharpest blade you will ever carry. It sees solutions where others see only problems. It turns obstacles into stepping stones. As the Stoics taught, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Most people crumble under pressure, not because the challenge was unbeatable, but because they let fear and chaos take the wheel. But when you train your mind to be still, when you refuse to let emotion cloud your vision, you rise above the storm. You see clearly. You act with purpose. You move with precision. In that stillness, you become unshakable. Life rarely taps you on the shoulder and says, "Get ready." It simply hits. Sometimes it's a slow, creeping storm you can see in the distance. Other times, it's a sudden wave that crashes without warning. You find yourself standing in the middle of it all, unsure which way is forward. The familiar becomes strange, and the ground feels as if it's moving beneath your feet. The question isn't whether you will face the storm, because you will. The question is whether you can keep your mind steady while it rages around you. Calmness is not a luxury for peaceful times. Anyone can be composed when the air is still. The true test is your ability to hold your center when the air turns sharp, when voices are raised, and when the future dissolves into uncertainty. Many believe that calm is a personality trait, something you are born with or without. This is not true. Calm is a skill. It is a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows stronger the more you train it. It is not about ignoring what is happening or pretending it doesn't hurt. It is about keeping your head when others are losing theirs. As Carl Jung observed, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." In the heat of a crisis, the choice to become steady instead of scattered changes everything. We live in a world that conditions us to react. A message appears, and we reply without thinking. A comment stings, and we fire one back. Someone cuts us off in traffic, and our temper leaps before reason can catch up. Reaction feels natural because it's fast, but it's a dangerous impulse. It is like handing the steering wheel of your life to whatever startled you. The moment you are reacting, you are no longer in control. The moment is controlling you. But when you learn to respond, you take the wheel back. You create a gap between what happens and what you do next. In that gap lies your power. Think of the last time you let your emotions run the show. Perhaps you said something you didn't mean, or made a choice in frustration that you later regretted. In the moment, it likely felt justified. Emotions have a way of convincing us they are the truth. But when the dust settled, clarity returned, and with it the realization that you could have handled it differently. The mind must be trained before the storm arrives, because when the pressure is on, you will default to your training. If you haven't trained your mind to pause, to breathe, to think, the chaos will decide for you. Under stress, the body stages its own rebellion. The heart rate climbs, the breath shortens, the muscles tense. The mind senses danger and slips into survival mode, shutting down the rational part of the brain in favor of instinct. This is why fear and panic feel so overwhelming. They literally change the way you think. But you can reverse this process. The simplest tool you have is your breath. Slow it down, and you slow your heart. Slow your heart, and you steady your thoughts. Even a few deep breaths can remind your nervous system that you are not in immediate danger, that you are safe enough to think clearly. But calming your breath is just the beginning. The mind must also be taught to see differently. When you view an obstacle as a final, immovable problem, it feels heavy. But when you reframe it as a challenge, something shifts. A challenge is something to be engaged with, overcome, and learned from. The obstacle is the same, but your relationship to it transforms. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This is not just philosophy, it's a practical survival guide. The moment you shift your frame, you strip an event of its power to control you. Reframing doesn't mean lying to yourself or painting a disaster in bright colors. It is about seeing what is in front of you with honesty and then choosing the angle that makes you stronger, not weaker. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What can this teach me?" The first question makes you a victim. The second makes you a student. That shift alone can turn despair into determination. After thousands of failed attempts to create the light bulb, Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." The facts didn't change. His frame did. This kind of thinking doesn't appear out of nowhere. Mental steadiness is built in the quiet moments, through small, daily choices. It is built when you decide to let go of a minor annoyance instead of feeding it, when you choose to listen before you speak, when you catch yourself rushing and consciously take a breath. Each time, you lay another brick in the foundation of your composure. Training the mind is a collection of habits, meditation, to observe your thoughts without getting lost in them, visualization, to see yourself succeeding, physical exercise, to endure discomfort. Each habit strengthens your mental armor, preparing you for what you cannot predict. Your environment matters too. Surround yourself with panicked people, and their energy becomes yours. Surround yourself with those who think clearly, and their steadiness will steady you. The storm will come. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will. And when it does, you will either be swept up in its wind, or you will stand unmoved in its center. That choice is not made in the moment. It is made now, in the daily discipline of training your mind to be still. You do it not because life will be gentle, but because it will not. And when it isn't, you will be ready. A calm mind cuts through the fog that blinds everyone else. When fear grips the crowd and confusion reigns, it can still see the path. It notices details that panic erases and catches opportunities others miss. Calmness does not mean you feel nothing. It means you refuse to be ruled by what you feel. It is the difference between the archer who shoots in haste and misses, and the one who breathes, waits for the wind to shift, and releases with precision. In the moments that matter most, speed without clarity is a trap. Calmness gives you the clarity to act at the right moment, in the right way. Its power lies in changing the rules of the game. While others react to the surface, the calm mind looks beneath, to the root of the problem. As Jung wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." Panic looks outward, desperate to control circumstances. Calm looks inward, determined to master the self. That mastery allows you to step outside the storm's rhythm and create your own. Suddenly, you are not just surviving the moment, you are shaping it. This is not about moving slowly. Calmness is not the absence of movement, but the presence of control. It is the warrior who stands still while the battlefield swirls, waiting for the one opening that will change everything. In a world that mistakes loudness for strength, true power is found in the steady hand, the measured word, and the unshaken gaze. When you remain calm where others lose their balance, you stand out, not because you tried to, but because steadiness has become rare, and what is rare is valuable. Calmness also protects you from making decisions you can't take back. We have all felt the regret of words spoken too quickly or actions taken in a rush of emotion. The calm mind doesn't escape these feelings, but it learns to let the first wave pass before making a move. It knows that even in urgency, there is power in a pause. That pause is where wisdom lives. Think of the difference between a candle and a lighthouse. A candle flickers in the slightest breeze, its light fragile. A lighthouse stands through storms, its beam unwavering. Calmness turns you from the candle into the lighthouse. The sea may rage, but you remain steady, casting light where it is needed most. Ultimately, calmness is freedom. It is freedom from being pushed and pulled by circumstance, freedom from becoming someone you don't recognize under stress, and freedom to choose your next step instead of having it chosen for you by fear. In that freedom, you find a strength that no amount of force or noise can ever match. You become the steady ground in an unsteady world. And from that ground, you can move anywhere you choose. You won't always get it perfect. You don't need to. What matters is that, as often as you can, you choose to keep your mind steady when your emotions demand to take the lead. Because when you do, you are not just saving yourself from a moment of regret. You are building a life that can withstand whatever comes its way. When fear takes hold, something profound happens inside your brain. It's not just a feeling. It is a fundamental shift in the very operating system of your being. In moments of perceived danger, your brain's ancient alarm system, the amygdala, sounds a silent siren. That signal races through your body, a flood of adrenaline and cortisol, the hormones of survival. In an instant, your heart pounds, pumping blood to your muscles. Your breathing quickens. Your vision narrows, sharpening its focus on the threat. This primal mechanism once saved our ancestors from predators. But in modern life, the alarm can be triggered by a harsh email, a tense conversation, or an unexpected challenge. Your body reacts as though your life depends on it, even when the danger isn't physical at all. And in those moments, something else happens. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reason, problem solving, and long-term planning, begins to shut down. The wise leader of your mind is pushed aside, and the most primitive guard has seized control. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is what he meant. When fear hijacks your brain, it drives your behavior without your permission and without considering the consequences. You stop choosing your actions. You start reacting. This shift from choice to reaction is subtle, but its power is absolute. Reaction feels fast. It feels alive. In the heat of the moment, it even feels right. But in truth, in that instant of pure reaction, control has already slipped away. You have surrendered it to the very thing that provoked you. The trap is that it hides in the very speed that makes it feel so powerful. It convinces you that faster is stronger, but faster is often weaker, for it bypasses the part of you that weighs, measures, and decides with purpose. This is why we say and do things we later regret. The decision wasn't made from a place of clarity. It was made from a place of urgency, where the only goal is to end the threat as quickly as possible. The trouble is, that threat might be a misunderstanding, a delay, or a difficult choice. Things that instinct alone cannot solve. When survival mode takes over, your perception of time itself becomes distorted. Seconds stretch into minutes. This tunnel vision blinds you to the bigger picture, obsessing over winning the moment rather than succeeding in the long run. The things that provoke us most deeply often reveal more about ourselves than the situation at hand. But reaction skips that understanding entirely. It offers no space to ask, "Why does this bother me?" It only knows that something has stirred you, and it demands an answer with equal force. You miss the chance to learn, and so you are destined to repeat the same mistakes. And yet, there is another option. It's the choice to pause, to take one single breath before you do anything. In that small gap between stimulus and response, you give your mind the space to catch up to your feelings. You step out of the chaotic rhythm of the world and into your own. This is where science meets wisdom. Practices like deep breathing and deliberate pausing are not just calming techniques. They are physiological interventions. A slow, deep breath sends a signal to your brain that the body is safe. This begins to dial back the stress hormones and brings your thinking mind, your prefrontal cortex, back online. You are literally restoring your ability to think clearly. Most of us are never taught to recognize the moment the primitive brain is about to take over. We only notice after we've snapped, made a rash decision, or walked away. But with awareness, you can learn to feel the early signs, the shallow breath, the tightening in your shoulders, the racing thoughts. Think of it like driving a car down a steep hill. If you tap the brakes early, you stay in control. If you wait too long, the momentum becomes impossible to stop without a crash. The earlier you respond to fear with intentional action, the easier it is to keep your reasoning mind engaged. This isn't just about fear. Anger, frustration, even excitement can trigger the same bypass of your slower, more deliberate mind. But in life's most important moments, what you need isn't speed. It is clarity. Once you understand this, you stop blaming yourself for feeling overwhelmed and start building the skill of staying steady. You begin to see calmness not as a personality trait, but as a practice rooted in managing the handoff between instinct and thought. The goal is not to eliminate your emotions. Fear can protect you. Anger can alert you to injustice. But these feelings should inform your choices, not dictate them. When you can feel the rush without losing the reins, you unlock a power that is not swayed by the chaos of the moment. Reaction is a quick flame that burns out as fast as it ignites. A measured response, on the other hand, builds something that lasts. It protects your peace, your relationships, and your future. Every time you resist the urge to react without thought, you reclaim a piece of your life from the pull of chaos. In every field, the people who rise above are not those with the most talent, but those with the ability to remain steady when the pressure is highest. They have earned this discipline long before the critical moment arrives. Pressure reveals the truth. When the stakes are high, all pretense falls away, leaving only what has been built deep inside. By choosing to respond, you are building a foundation of self-trust. You prove to yourself again and again that you can hold steady. You stop seeing yourself as someone at the mercy of chaos and start seeing yourself as the one who can navigate it. This is the quiet power no one can give you, and no one can take away. You become the steady presence in a world that is always shifting. And that steadiness, born of understanding your own mind, is the foundation for everything else you will achieve. Carl Jung once wrote, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." Those who thrive under pressure have learned to perceive this hidden order when all others see is confusion. They do not ignore the chaos, they acknowledge it, and then they look beyond it. While others are swept away by the noise, they remain anchored to the signal, to the few essential details that will ultimately decide the outcome. This ability is not an accident of birth. It is forged in the fires of repeated challenge through the conscious choice to keep breathing, thinking, and moving forward when every instinct screams to do the opposite. Consider the elite athlete. The line between a champion and the rest is often drawn in moments of extreme pressure, decided by mental composure. The sprinter whose form remains flawless in the last 10 meters the tennis player who dares to aim for the line at match point. These are acts of trained tranquility. Their bodies know the motions, but it is the mind that prevents them from tightening up, from succumbing to the fatal error. They have learned a fundamental truth. Tension, both physical and mental, slows you down. By keeping their minds clear, they allow years of training to take over, giving them the best possible chance to execute perfectly. This is more than skill, it is mastery over fear. The same principle governs the world of business. Companies constantly face moments that can make or break them: sudden market shifts, financial crises, the emergence of a fierce competitor. In these moments, the leaders who maintain their composure are the ones who can rally their teams and adapt with speed and precision. While everyone else is fixated on the problem, they are already architecting the solution. They understand that panic spreads faster than any market trend, and if they allow it into the room, it will cloud judgment and poison every decision. History is filled with stories of calm minds shaping the world. Think of Winston Churchill during the Second World War, addressing his nation not with trembling fear, but with unwavering resolve, giving his people a sense of steadiness when survival itself was in question. Or Abraham Lincoln, presiding over a divided nation, known for pausing before he spoke, weighing not just the immediate consequences, but the ripples his words would create for decades to come. These moments were not free from fear. If anything, the immense weight of their decisions made the fear heavier. But by holding their ground mentally, they created clarity where chaos threatened to reign. There is a pattern here. Those who excel under pressure do not wait for the storm to practice. Their composure is the product of countless smaller tests, times when they chose patience over haste, understanding over assumption, silence over a poorly timed word. These habits stack over time, building a foundation strong enough to hold when the weight of the moment becomes immense. They have trained themselves to act from intention, not from impulse, which means that when the stakes are at their highest, they can trust themselves completely. And this principle holds true far from the spotlight. You don't need to be a general or a CEO to face high-pressure moments. For some, it is the job interview that could change a career. For others, it is the difficult conversation that could save or sever a relationship. In those moments, your ability to control your own mind is the greatest advantage you possess. Panic makes your thoughts race, your words stumble, and your body language betray you. Calm allows you to listen fully, speak clearly, and choose your next step with purpose. It is not about pretending you don't feel the pressure. It is about refusing to let the pressure make your decisions for you. Here is the truth. Pressure does not change who you are. It reveals who you have been all along. If you have built the habit of steady thinking, if you have practiced holding back your first impulse, if you have learned to focus on what truly matters, that is what will emerge when things get hard. But if you have allowed yourself to be pulled by every wave of emotion, by every distraction, that is what will surface instead. This is why the calm you see in great performers is not arrogance. It is preparation. It is the result of choosing, day after day, to master the mind, so that when it matters most, the mind serves you instead of betraying you. Carl Jung also said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Under pressure, the mask comes off, and the real you steps forward. The only question is, will that version of you be ready? Will they be grounded enough to see through the noise, to act with precision, and to hold their own when the moment is too big for most? The answer lies not in what you do when the spotlight is on, but in how you have prepared when no one was watching. Those who master pressure carry a quiet confidence that is hard to miss. It is not loud or showy. It is a steady presence that reassures everyone around them. They know that life will always present moments that test them, that throw them into situations where there is no room for panic. And because they have trained for it, they meet those moments head-on, not with reckless speed, but with deliberate, decisive action. That is how games are won, deals are made, and history is shaped. Not in the absence of pressure, but in the mastery of it. When you understand this, you stop fearing pressure and start seeing it for what it is: an amplifier. It can magnify your weaknesses, but it can also magnify your strengths. The choice is yours. The people who win in those amplified moments are the ones who can keep their minds from drowning in the noise, who can hold to the truth that in all the disorder there is still a hidden order. And if they can see it, they can shape it. That is where real power lives. Pressure in everyday life often feels sharper because it is personal. It is not just about performance. It is about your relationships, your security, your reputation, and the very way you see yourself. You cannot simply walk away from it because it is tied to the things you care about most. That is why the stakes feel so high, even when the rest of the world doesn't notice. As Jung observed, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. The moments of pressure you face every day are these points of contact, where you and your circumstances collide. The transformation, for better or worse, depends entirely on how you meet them. Think about the times a small trigger has sparked a big reaction. An offhand comment from a colleague that lingers for hours. A single look from a loved one that shifts the entire tone of an evening. These are pressure points, and they act like magnifying glasses, making small moments feel enormous. Your ability to remain calm here is no less important than in the grand, dramatic scenes we imagine. In fact, it may be more important, because these are the moments that repeat. You face them not once in a lifetime, but again and again, day after day. And if you are not careful, they will shape who you become without you even realizing it. What makes everyday pressure so tricky is that it often catches you off guard. You wake up expecting a normal day, and then something shifts. A meeting is moved up. An email arrives with news that changes everything. A conversation takes a turn you never anticipated. Your mind scrambles to keep up, and in that scramble, it is easy to lose the clarity you had just a moment before. That is when reaction slips in, when you say the thing you immediately wish you hadn't, or make a choice that feels right in the heat of the moment, but wrong in hindsight. The pressure didn't just test your patience. It tested your ability to steer your own mind when you weren't expecting to have to. It is also worth remembering that pressure does not always come from conflict or bad news. Sometimes it is hidden in good opportunities. The promotion you worked for, but now must prove you can handle. The new relationship that is exciting, but requires you to show up in unfamiliar ways. The personal goal that demands consistency, even when your motivation wanes. Even positive change carries its own pressure, because it still asks you to rise to a challenge, to hold steady when your instincts want to rush forward or retreat. The calm you build in these everyday situations becomes the foundation for handling bigger challenges later. If you can stay composed when a meeting runs off track, you are more likely to stay composed when an entire project is on the line. If you can choose your words carefully in a small disagreement, you will have more control when a conversation could alter the course of a relationship. Every minor test you pass strengthens the mental muscle that will hold you up in the moments that truly matter. Marcus Aurelius captured this when he said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacles in your daily life are not mere inconveniences. They are the very things that prepare you for the weight of greater responsibility. But this preparation does not happen by accident. It happens when you decide that every moment of pressure, no matter how small, is worth meeting with intention. This does not mean you must move through life in a state of constant vigilance. It means you develop habits that naturally anchor you when the ground shifts, slowing your breath when you feel your chest tighten, asking one more question before assuming you understand, taking a silent moment to check your tone before you reply. These actions may seem minor in isolation, but over time, they form a pattern of response that protects you from being swept away. And this is where everyday pressure becomes a gift in disguise. It offers you more practice than any staged challenge or high-profile test ever could. Because the truth is, life is not made of a few huge moments. It is made of thousands of small ones. And if you can navigate those with calm and clarity, the big ones will simply feel like an extension of what you have already mastered. By the time the spotlight finds you, in your career, your relationships, or your personal journey, you will already know how to keep your mind from drowning in the noise. You will already know how to stand in the middle of uncertainty without losing your footing. As Jung also reminded us, the world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you. Everyday moments of pressure are the world asking, again and again, who are you in this moment? Your response to that question, not just once, but over and over, becomes your answer. The more you choose with clarity instead of reacting with haste, the more that answer becomes the kind of person you truly want to be. So, while it is easy to see everyday pressure as an annoyance, something to be endured, it is far better to see it as the proving ground it truly is. Every tense meeting, every uncomfortable conversation, every sudden surprise, these are not just interruptions. They are opportunities. Opportunities to practice keeping your mind steady when it matters most. Because if you can win here, in the small, unglamorous moments, you are already training for every stage, every spotlight, and every storm that lies ahead. No one enters the world knowing how to hold their ground in a storm. Calm is not a gift some are born with while others are left to struggle. It is built. It is shaped through effort, tested in real moments and strengthened over time. It is a skill, no different from any other. You would not expect to play the piano without practice or run a marathon without training. The ability to remain calm under pressure works in precisely the same way. It is a muscle of the mind, and like any muscle, it grows only when you work it. The trouble is, most people expect composure to appear magically when the moment demands it, not realizing that if they haven't trained it in the quiet, it will not be there in the chaos. Training this skill begins with awareness. You cannot control what you do not notice. Every time your voice rises, your heart pounds, or your thoughts race, that is your signal. These are the moments that invite you to step back and observe yourself, rather than being swept along by the current. But awareness is only the foundation. From there, you need deliberate practice, small, repeated actions that strengthen your mental control. It can be as simple as taking 3 slow breaths before answering a difficult question, or pausing to consider another's perspective before defending your own. These moments may feel insignificant, but they are the repetitions that build strength. Just as a runner builds endurance by adding miles a little at a time, you build resilience by adding moments of patience, reflection, and deliberate choice into your day. The beauty of treating calmness as a skill is that you stop seeing it as something fixed. You realize that every stressful encounter is a training session. The long line at the store becomes a lesson in patience. The meeting that runs late becomes a chance to practice control over frustration. The unexpected change in plans becomes a drill in flexibility. What once felt like irritations are now revealed to be opportunities, turning life itself into a living classroom for composure. It is also vital to understand that building calmness does not mean shutting down your emotions. It is not about becoming cold or detached. In fact, it is the opposite. It is about feeling everything fully while still retaining the power to choose your response. True calm does not remove emotion. It ensures that emotion is guided by thought rather than being allowed to run wild. When you train this way, you stop fearing your feelings because you know they no longer control you. Like any training, it is not always comfortable. You will feel the urge to react, to rush, to cut corners. That is where discipline comes in. The work is often quiet and unseen, happening in moments no one applauds. When you bite back a sharp comment, when you walk away from a pointless argument, when you choose to listen instead of interrupt. These are the mental push-ups, the slow repetitions that forge a strength others will notice when the stakes are high. And make no mistake, people will notice. Calmness under pressure has a gravity to it. In tense moments, others will look to you, not because you have all the answers, but because you do not lose yourself in the uncertainty. Your steadiness becomes a reference point, a quiet reminder that chaos does not have to dictate the outcome. Of course, this training requires preparing before the storm arrives. You cannot wait until you are in the middle of a crisis to start. It must be woven into the fabric of your daily life. Meditation, journaling, deep breathing, mindful walking, these are all ways to practice stillness when nothing is demanding it. They are the equivalent of sharpening your tools before you need to use them. By the time the pressure comes, you are not scrambling to figure out how to steady yourself. You have already done the work. You have proven to yourself, in 100 small ways, that you can meet life's tests without losing control. This process is never truly finished. Just as a musician keeps practicing or an athlete keeps training, you will continue refining your calm for as long as you live. There will be days you slip, moments you wish you had handled differently. But each one is simply another repetition, another chance to strengthen the muscle. Over time, you will see the difference in the way you speak, the way you decide, the way you carry yourself. You will feel it in the way you no longer rush to match the chaos around you, but instead begin to slow it down just by your presence. In the end, calmness as a trained skill is one of the most valuable investments you can make. It pays dividends not only in the quality of your decisions, but in the quality of your life. You stop being thrown about by every wave of circumstance and learn, instead, to navigate. You become more intentional, more grounded, and more capable, not because the world has become easier, but because you have made yourself stronger. And that strength, built one deliberate choice at a time, becomes the foundation you stand on, no matter how high the pressure rises. Your breath is the one constant you carry with you, from the moment you arrive in this world until the moment you leave it. It is so familiar, so automatic, that most of the time you forget it is even there. Yet, within that quiet rhythm lies one of the most powerful tools you will ever possess for regaining control over your mind and body. When chaos begins to close in, when your thoughts race and your chest tightens, your breath is the switch that can pull you back from the edge. You don't have to escape the room, solve the problem, or even speak a word. All you have to do is breathe, slowly, deeply, deliberately, and the tide begins to turn. There is a direct line between your breath and your nervous system. Under pressure, your body defaults to shallow, rapid breathing, sending a primal signal that danger is near. Your heart beats faster, adrenaline surges, and your mind locks into survival mode. It is a chain reaction designed to help you fight or run, but in most modern situations, that response only makes things worse. This is where conscious breathing becomes a profound act of self-regulation. It becomes a way to speak directly to your own body, to tell it, "I am safe." As Jung said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Your breath is the simplest, most immediate way to change yourself in the moment, shifting your inner state even if the outer one remains the same. Slow, deep breaths work as a counter-signal to panic. When you inhale fully, Hold for a moment, and exhale slowly. You activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of you responsible for rest, recovery, and clarity. This is not theory. It is biology. Navy divers, elite athletes, and surgeons in the middle of complex operations all use breath control to keep their hands steady and their minds clear. They know that in any high-stakes situation, the breath is an anchor. No matter how turbulent the water, the anchor holds you in place. One of the simplest and most effective techniques is known as box breathing. Inhale for a count of 4, hold your breath for 4, exhale for 4, and hold again for 4. Repeat. It sounds almost too simple to matter, yet it can reset your entire system in less than 2 minutes. It is a deliberate interruption of the stress loop, giving your mind the space it needs to think again, instead of merely reacting. In those few measured breaths, the fog begins to lift, and the options you couldn't see a moment ago start to appear. The beauty of the breath is that it is always available. You don't need special equipment or a quiet environment. You can use it in the middle of a tense conversation without anyone noticing. You can use it before walking into a room that holds your future. You can use it when you are lying awake at night, your thoughts spinning out of control. Your breath is portable power, hidden in plain sight. It is a reminder that true control doesn't have to come from force. You don't have to dominate the situation or push harder to find your balance. Sometimes, all you need to do is pause and breathe. There are moments when the greatest act of strength is not to brace for impact, but to soften. To ease into a slower rhythm. Draw the world deep into your lungs and let your breath reset you from the inside out. This is not a denial of the stress you feel. It is the creation of a sacred pause, a space between the world's demand and your response, where you can choose your next move with intention. Every slow, deliberate breath is a quiet declaration that you are not required to match the frantic pace of the chaos around you. You can set your own rhythm, and in doing so, you reclaim the one thing that is truly yours, your inner state. Over time, this practice of returning to the breath does more than calm isolated moments. It fundamentally rewires your response to stress. Instead of an immediate leap into panic or frustration, your first instinct becomes to find your center. It is like building a hidden strength. You may not notice its growth day by day, but when a heavy weight arrives, you will feel its power. Calmness under pressure will cease to be an aspiration. It will become a part of who you are. To return to your breath is to turn inward, to find clarity at its very source. You stop chasing control in an unpredictable world and discover it in the steady, quiet rhythm within. The next time you feel the pressure building, remember the tool you already possess. You need no special place, no one's permission, not even more than a few seconds. Simply slow your breath, deepen it, and feel the ground become more solid beneath your feet. Notice how the grip of panic loosens, how your thoughts begin to find their order once more. From that place of stillness, you can choose. Not because the world has suddenly become easier, but because you have made yourself unshakable. In the end, your breath is more than a function of survival. It is an instrument of mastery, the bridge between chaos and clarity. The more you walk this bridge, the more it becomes your natural way of moving through the world, until you no longer wait for calm to arrive. You carry it with you, in every breath you take. This inner calm allows you to see the world differently. How you perceive a situation is the very architecture of your response. Two people can face the exact same circumstance. One will see an impassable wall, while the other sees a doorway to something new. The facts are the same. The difference lies in the frame. The word problem feels heavy, final. It traps you in a mindset of survival. A challenge, on the other hand, invites engagement. It carries a sense of movement, of possibility. The label you choose determines the story you tell yourself, and that story determines the outcome. This is the art of reframing the mind. It is not about pretending a difficulty isn't real, but about choosing the angle from which you view it. As Carl Jung observed, it all depends on how we look at things, and not how they are in themselves. You may not have the power to change what has happened, but you always possess the power to decide how you will interpret it. That choice can either lock you in a room of fear or open a path to clarity and action. This is more than positive thinking. It's a practical way of breaking the mental patterns that keep you stuck. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When you see the obstacle as part of the path, you turn resistance into fuel. This doesn't make life easier, but it does make you stronger. This art of reframing finds its most profound test when life presents you with something unexpected. The first instinct is often to resist, and the mind lands on that heavy question: why me? It's a question steeped in frustration, one that turns an impersonal event into a personal attack. And while it feels natural, this question anchors you in a past you cannot change. It keeps you circling the pain, powerless. Now, imagine shifting the question. Instead of, why me? You ask, what is this here to teach me? The energy changes in an instant. The first question keeps you stuck. The second points you toward the future. One makes you a passive victim. The other makes you an active participant in your own growth. This isn't about being grateful for hardship. It's about refusing to let it pass without taking something of value from it. You refuse to waste the experience. There is a quiet strength in those who make this shift. They feel the pain, but they refuse to let it be the end of the story. They treat every experience as raw material for the person they are becoming. Why me? Casts you as the victim. What can I learn? Makes you the student. And a student can always grow. This means you claim ownership over the one thing no one can ever take from you: your response. Over time, challenges become less like dead ends and more like detours. You become less fearful of the unknown because you trust yourself to find meaning in whatever comes. So when the next difficulty arrives, notice the question that arises in you, and then, gently, guide yourself to the one that points you forward. In that question lies the power to turn any moment, no matter how painful, into a building block for the person you are still becoming. When you live that way, no experience ever truly goes to waste. Living this way, you begin to understand that growth is not an event, but a process. And every process requires the one virtue our modern world has largely forgotten: patience. Patience is a quiet strength, praised in the abstract but rarely cultivated in the rush of the everyday. Real patience is not tested in crisis. It is built in peace. It is forged in the small, unseen moments when your mind wants to rush, but you choose to wait. These moments are the training ground for how you will respond when life gets loud. Calmness in a storm is not a magic trick. It is the result of quiet habits. In a culture addicted to immediacy, the person who can wait, observe, and act with intention holds a rare and powerful advantage. They are not pulled by the same frantic currents as everyone else. Patience is not inaction. It is a mastery of timing. It is the archer holding the bow steady, waiting for the perfect moment to release. It is the quiet confidence that some doors open not with force, but with the right key, at the right time. This kind of patience cannot be faked. If you indulge impatience in the small things, it will overpower you when the stakes are high. But patience, too, is a muscle. The more you exercise it, by listening instead of interrupting, by thinking instead of reacting, the stronger it becomes. Patience grants you clarity. When you are not rushing to fix everything at once, you can see the bigger picture. You realize that many situations resolve themselves if given the space to do so. This is not passivity, it is strategy. Ultimately, patience changes your relationship with time. Instead of an enemy you must race against, you see it as a collaborator. You learn that the most meaningful things in life, trust, wisdom, skill, can only be earned with it. You learn to respect the process, knowing that to rush a lesson is only to repeat it. You begin to understand that true strength lies not in how fast you can move, but in how gracefully you can be still. It is a quiet irony that patience, which feels like a slowing of pace, is often the most direct path to your destination. It is the wisdom that keeps you from making the kind of missteps that undo all progress. It is worth remembering that many of history's most formidable figures were not merely bold. They were patient. They understood when to act, but more importantly, they knew when to wait. They knew that a single rushed move could dismantle months, even years, of careful preparation. And they learned that the confidence to wait is born from the knowledge that you can handle whatever unfolds in the interim. Patience is not a passive endurance. It is an active state of preparing, observing, and strengthening your position as you wait for the perfect moment to strike. Weaving this discipline into your daily life requires no grand gestures. It is found in the small, repeated acts of restraint. It is choosing to pause before you reply. It is letting someone finish their point, even when you are certain you know what they will say. It is slowing your breath when you feel it begin to quicken. These are the small weights you lift to build the immense muscle of calm. Over time, these choices accumulate, forging a mental strength that cannot be shaken by sudden noise or pressure. And when life inevitably grows loud, as it always will, you will find that the patience you built in silence is the very thing that keeps you steady. You will not scramble for composure, because you will have already made it your own. You will respond with clarity, with control, and with a sense of timing that makes every action more effective. And in that moment, you will understand that patience is not just a virtue. It is a weapon, one you have been sharpening quietly every day while the world rushes past. Calmness under pressure is not a skill you can improvise. It is not a trick you pull from a sleeve in the heat of a crisis. By the time the storm hits, you will always default to the habits you have practiced. If those habits are rooted in panic, overreaction, or avoidance, that is precisely what will surface. But if you have trained for composure, if you have built the reflex to pause, to think, to breathe, then when the world around you is shaking, you will find yourself standing still. You do not learn to swim when you are already drowning. You train while the waters are calm. The mistake so many make is to believe that calmness will simply arrive when it is needed most. But chaos strips away the luxury of learning in the moment. It compresses time, accelerates everything, and leaves no room for trial and error. Like an athlete preparing for a race, your mind and body require rehearsal. Every deliberate act of self-control in small, low-stakes moments is a form of training for the monumental ones. This preparation is not dramatic. It happens in the quiet moments that most people overlook. It is in the choice to let someone finish speaking when you are eager to respond. It is in the decision to take a slow breath before replying to a frustrating email. It is in holding your ground when plans change unexpectedly, instead of letting irritation take over. These are not just good manners. They are mental repetitions. The push-ups for your patience, the practice swings before you step into the arena. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Wrestling requires you to anticipate resistance, to train your body and mind to respond fluidly under pressure. You cannot master that response without countless hours of practice. Similarly, if you wait until you are in the midst of life's heaviest blows to try to find your balance, you are already behind. Calmness is a skill sharpened in advance, not a miracle that appears on demand. The beauty of training before the storm is that it rewires your very instincts. At first, you must consciously remind yourself to slow down, to breathe, to choose your words. But with repetition, these responses become automatic. When pressure rises, you no longer have to tell yourself to be calm. You simply are. This is not because you have erased emotion, but because you have taught yourself to remain functional in its presence. The storm still comes, but you meet it with the same rhythm you have been practicing all along. This preparation has another benefit. It shrinks fear. Uncertainty is what makes chaos so unsettling. When you do not know how you will respond, the unknown becomes a source of anxiety. But when you have trained, when you have run the mental drills and practiced composure in smaller situations, you carry a quiet confidence into the larger ones. You know you can handle the discomfort because you have handled versions of it before. That familiarity is what allows you to think clearly when others freeze. Consider a firefighter. They do not wait for a building to be engulfed in flames to learn how to use their equipment. They run drills. They practice in smoke-filled rooms. They simulate high-pressure scenarios until their reactions are second nature. When a true emergency arrives, there is no time for hesitation. They act with precision because, in their minds, they have already been there 100 times. Your mind works in precisely the same way. The drills you run in daily life, pausing before reacting, staying steady when provoked, speaking with care in tense moments, are what make you ready for the fires you cannot predict. The hard truth is, the storm will come whether you are prepared or not. Life does not wait for you to feel ready. It will present you with situations that demand clarity, restraint, and decisiveness. The only question is whether you will meet them as someone who has been training or as someone trying to figure it out on the spot. One path leaves you in control, the other leaves you at the mercy of the moment. Training for calm does not require hours of meditation or isolated retreats, though those can certainly help. It requires using daily life as your practice field. Every inconvenience is a chance to build patience. Every disagreement is an opportunity to strengthen self-control. Every unexpected change is a rehearsal for adaptability. If you approach life this way, then by the time the real pressure hits, you are not scrambling for composure. You are simply stepping into a role you have been playing all along. This is the essence of being prepared for chaos. It is not about hoping the storm will be gentle. It is about becoming so strong, so steady, so practiced, that it no longer matters how hard the wind blows. You have already been training in calmer weather, building the muscle that will keep you upright when everything else begins to sway. That is the quiet advantage of preparation. It does not just ready you for the storm, it changes who you are when it arrives. Your mind is no different from your body. It needs regular exercise to remain strong, flexible, and ready for whatever life brings. We tend to think of mental clarity as something that either appears or doesn't, like a fleeting mood or a sudden spark of inspiration. But the truth is, clarity is trained. It is built through small, consistent habits, repeated daily until they become part of who you are. Just as you would not expect to run a marathon without months of physical training, you cannot expect your mind to perform at its best in high-pressure situations if you have not been preparing it in the quiet ones. Meditation, visualization, and physical exercise are not luxuries for those with spare time. They are the daily drills of mental resilience, the equivalent of sharpening your tools before you need to use them. When you visualize, you are teaching your brain to recognize success before it happens. You are showing yourself not just what you want to achieve, but how you will carry yourself in the process. When the real moment arrives, it feels familiar. not because you have been there physically, but because you have already been there in your mind. Physical exercise, meanwhile, changes your chemistry. It clears stress hormones, boosts your mood, and sharpens your focus. And, beyond the science, there is a lesson in discipline. Every time you show up to train your body, even when you do not feel like it, you reinforce a mindset that says, "I follow through." That mindset does not stay in the gym. It shows up in your work, your relationships, and your decisions under pressure. These practices feed into one another. Meditation sharpens your awareness. Visualization gives that awareness a direction. And physical exercise strengthens the willpower needed to stick with both. Together they form a cycle of clarity, confidence, and control. Over time, they change not just how you think, but how you live. The mistake most people make is waiting for a crisis to begin these habits. But that is like deciding to carry a shield after the battle has begun. These are not someday habits. They are the daily repetitions that prepare you for the moments you cannot predict. At first, these practices might feel awkward. You may wonder if sitting quietly for 10 minutes can truly make a difference. But the impact is cumulative. After weeks and months, you will notice a change. You will be less reactive in tense situations. You will find it easier to focus on what matters. You will approach challenges with a steadier hand, because you have been practicing a steady hand every day. Ask yourself, if the greatest challenge of your life arrived tomorrow, how ready would your mind be? The answer depends on what you are doing today. 10 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes of visualization, 30 minutes of physical movement. Done consistently, these moments become more than habits. They become your foundation. And when life tests that foundation, you will be ready. Mental clarity is not something you wait for. It is something you build, brick by brick, breath by breath. Who you spend your time with is not merely a matter of preference. It is a matter of profound influence. The people closest to you do not just share your days. They shape your thoughts, your habits, and your very perception of what is possible. Their energy, whether grounded or chaotic, becomes the atmosphere you breathe. This influence is subtle, but over time, you will find their ways of thinking seeping into your own. Their pace becomes your pace. Their fears and ambitions begin to color the way you see the world. Your environment, then, is not just the physical space you inhabit. It is the human ecosystem you choose to exist within. When you surround yourself with people who think clearly, it changes you. Their steadiness is contagious. You watch them approach challenges with focus instead of panic, and slowly, you begin to do the same. The opposite is also true. Spend enough time around constant complainers or impulsive decision-makers, and you will find yourself reacting more and reflecting less. This is not about surrounding yourself only with people who agree with you. In fact, one of the healthiest influences is someone who challenges your thinking without tearing you down. Someone who asks questions that force you to reconsider your assumptions, who listens fully before responding, who focuses on solutions instead of dwelling on problems. They sharpen you, not by imposing their perspective, but by encouraging you to refine your own. Your mindset is shaped not by decisions made in solitude, but by the conversations you have had and the attitudes you have been around. If your circle normalizes negativity, that will feel natural. If it normalizes accountability and disciplined action, that will feel natural instead. You cannot help but absorb the emotional climate you spend the most time in. This influence runs deeper than mood. It impacts your decisions. When you are among people who panic at the first sign of trouble, your instinct in a crisis will be to do the same. But if you are around those who stay calm, who gather facts and consider all angles, that becomes your instinct too. Their habits of thought become your muscle memory. And in high-pressure moments, Muscle memory is everything. You do not have to sever ties with everyone who falls short of this ideal. Life is more complex than that. But you can be intentional about whose voices carry the most weight in your mind. Proximity matters. Influence matters. Seek out the conversations that sharpen your thinking. Spend time with the people who make you want to be more focused, more patient, more courageous. Let that be the dominant tone of your environment. You can learn from anyone, but you do not have to model yourself after everyone. The company you keep should be chosen for where you want to go, not just for where you happen to be now. Over time, you will notice that this environment shapes not only your mindset, but also your ambitions. When you are around people who strive, who learn, who improve, it becomes second nature to do the same. That is the silent gift of the right environment. It pulls you forward. Your mind is the most valuable space you will ever own, yet it is the one most people guard the least. We lock our doors and password protect our devices, but the thoughts and beliefs that shape our entire lives are often left wide open. Not everyone should have access to this space. As Carl Jung wrote, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." Protecting your inner world begins with looking inside and realizing it is not public property. It belongs to you, and you decide who gets close enough to leave an imprint. Your energy is not infinite. Every thought you entertain, every conversation you have, every person you allow into your mental space takes something from you. When you are surrounded by those who lift you up and challenge you in healthy ways, the exchange is worth it. But when you allow constant negativity, manipulation, or drama to enter, it is like leaving a window open in a storm. The damage may start small, but over time, it erodes your focus, your confidence, and your sense of direction. Protecting your energy does not mean isolating yourself. It means becoming intentional about who and what influences your state of mind. It means setting boundaries. You would not drink from a poisoned well simply because you are thirsty. You should not absorb mental toxins simply because they are nearby. This may mean limiting time with certain people. It may mean changing the subject, refusing to engage in gossip, or walking away from a conversation that drags you down. Some people will drain your energy without even realizing it. They are caught in their own cycles of fear or pessimism, and without boundaries, their storm will become yours. You do not need to isolate yourself from the world, but you do need to anchor yourself. The people around you are either reinforcing your best self or feeding the parts of you that keep you stuck. Choosing wisely is not about comfort. It is about growth. It is about surrounding yourself with minds that sharpen yours and energy that steadies yours. Because in the end, your energy becomes theirs, and theirs becomes yours. When the right people are shaping your mind, you will find yourself not just thinking more clearly, but living more intentionally. It is possible to care for others without being consumed by them. This is the art of emotional discipline, the ability to empathize without absorbing, to remain present without being pulled into the depths. This also means guarding the subtle gateways to your mind. The endless scroll of social media, the relentless churn of the news, even a casual conversation, each holds the power to color your mood and shape your perspective if you allow them entry without awareness. A single headline can ignite your anxiety. A careless comment can echo in your thoughts all day. To protect your energy is to be the gatekeeper of your attention, for attention is the very doorway to your inner world. Every time you focus on something, you are granting it passage, offering it a seat in the sanctuary of your mind. Understand this. Protecting your energy is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of survival. When you are constantly depleted, you cannot think clearly, make wise decisions, or show up with your full strength for the people and pursuits that truly matter. You are not closing the door on others because you lack compassion. You are fortifying your own foundation, so you can offer them your strength, not your fractures. Of course, not every drain on your energy can be avoided. Life will place you in difficult situations, with challenging personalities and stressful environments. That is why protecting your energy also means mastering the art of restoration. It is about having practices that guide you back to your center when you have been pulled off balance, be it the stillness of solitude, the rhythm of deep breathing, the clarity of journaling, or the company of those who replenish your spirit rather than drain it. For while you cannot always prevent the storm, you can build a sanctuary within yourself, a quiet center that holds steady as the tempest rages. On a deeper level, to protect your energy is to protect the very compass of your life, the beliefs and values that guide you. When you allow those who do not respect your values to influence you, you risk drifting away from your truest self. This rarely happens in a sudden shift. It happens in a series of small compromises, in accepting what once felt unacceptable, in silencing the quiet inner voice that whispers, "This is not who you are." To guard your energy is to listen to that voice and to have the courage to honor it, even when it is easier to drift along with the crowd. The truth is, you teach the world how to treat your mind by the way you protect it. If you permit constant intrusion, others will assume your mental space is a public square. But when you set clear boundaries, when you demonstrate that your time, your focus, and your emotional bandwidth are precious, others learn to approach with respect. Protecting your energy sends a message not only to the world, but to yourself, that you believe your clarity, your peace, and your focus are worth defending. In the end, your mind is your most sacred asset. Everything you create, every relationship you build, every goal you achieve, begins there. If it is clouded by the wrong influences, you will struggle to see your path. But when you protect it, when you choose with intention who and what you let inside, you create the conditions for your best self to thrive. This isn't just about avoiding the negative. It's about making space for the positive, so your energy is spent building the life you truly desire, instead of merely surviving one you never chose. The storm will come. It always does. Sometimes it gathers quietly on the horizon, a slow darkening you barely notice until the first drop of rain strikes your skin. Other times it crashes into your life without warning, tearing apart the calm you thought would last. The storm takes many forms: a sudden loss, a bitter betrayal, the collapse of plans upon which you staked your future. And when it arrives, it does not ask if you are ready. That is why readiness is not found in the chaotic moment of impact. It is forged in the quiet hours, long before the first winds begin to howl. When the storm hits, it is a moment of revelation. It strips away all pretense, and the habits and choices you made in calmer times are laid bare. If you have trained yourself to stay grounded, to slow your thoughts, to protect your energy, you will find yourself holding steady even as the ground beneath you shakes. But if you have allowed panic to be your default, if you have fed impatience and neglected discipline, the storm will magnify every weakness. In the thick of it, you will feel its weight. You will feel the pull toward fear, the temptation to act recklessly just to feel in control. That is the moment your preparation matters most. If you have done the work beforehand, practiced calm in small conflicts, held your focus through minor distractions, cultivated patience when you could have rushed, then you are not scrambling to learn composure in a crisis. You are relying on a skill you have already honed. Preparation does not make the storm less real. It does not erase the difficulty, the loss, or the pain. But it changes your relationship to it. You stop seeing the storm as a purely destructive force and begin to see it as a force you can navigate. This is where resilience is born. Not in pretending the storm isn't dangerous, but in knowing you possess the tools to survive it without losing yourself. Think about what you are building right now, before the next storm arrives. Are you cultivating habits that steady you, or ones that make you more fragile? Are you surrounding yourself with people who will anchor you, or those who will only add to the chaos? The answers to these questions are not abstract. They will be revealed the moment the storm comes, and once it is here, you cannot go back and change them. Some people wait for the crisis to think about how to handle it, assuming they will rise to the occasion. But the truth is, we do not rise to the occasion. We fall to the level of our preparation. That is why the daily work matters. Every time you choose a breath over a reaction, every time you choose to listen when you could have argued, every time you stay steady instead of being swept into another's drama, you are laying another stone in the foundation of a fortress you will one day need. These small acts of discipline may not feel heroic, but they will determine whether you stand tall or are swept away. There is an honesty that comes with surviving a storm. You realize nothing is permanent, not comfort, not pain, not safety, not danger. Everything is in motion. The storm teaches you that. And if you listen closely, it also teaches you that you are capable of enduring more than you ever believed. Each storm leaves you with a deeper understanding of your own capacity to endure, to adapt, and to rebuild. This is a power that cannot be given. It can only be earned. But there is a trap here. Surviving a storm can make you feel unshakable, and that overconfidence can lead to complacency. You start to believe you no longer need the daily practice of patience, of protecting your energy, of choosing your influences wisely. But storms are unpredictable, and the next one will be different from the last. Complacency is a danger as potent as panic. True readiness is quiet, consistent, and humble. It is the awareness that no matter how steady you have been, the next challenge will demand your best. When the skies are clear, it is easy to forget the storm is coming. It is easy to let your habits slide, to tell yourself there will be time to prepare later. But the time of clear skies is the time for building. It is the time to strengthen the routines that keep you centered, to learn to control your breath under pressure, to reframe problems as challenges. It is the time to decide who and what you will allow into your mind, so that when the winds do rise, you are not fighting a war on two fronts, one outside and another within. And when the storm finally comes, you will not have to wonder if you are ready. You will simply meet it. You will stand in its center, aware of its power, but not consumed by it. You will feel the pull of fear, but not obey it. You will see the chaos, and somewhere within it, you will find the thread of order that guides you forward. Because the work you did before, the quiet discipline, the mental training, the intentional choices, will be holding you steady, like roots deep enough to keep a tree upright while its branches thrash in the wind. That is the true measure of readiness, not whether you can avoid the storm, but whether you can remain who you are in the very heart of it. And when you have built that, the storm is no longer an ending. It is the beginning of a new chapter, one you are ready to write. When the world spins into chaos, a calm mind becomes a point of gravity. It is not about being the loudest voice or making the boldest promises. It is the quiet strength of the person who holds their center while others come undone. In the noise of panic, people instinctively search for someone who is not swept away. They gravitate toward the person whose voice does not shake, whose decisions are not rushed, whose very presence feels like an anchor. Calmness under pressure is a rarity, and in a world of turmoil, what is rare is invaluable. This is not a passive, detached calm. It is an active state of being, the quiet confidence of someone who sees clearly when others are blinded by chaos. A calm mind does not deny the existence of problems. It simply refuses to inflate them. This is why calm people often appear to move more slowly in a crisis. But their measured pace is not hesitation. It is precision. They are weighing options, while others are merely reacting, choosing the right move instead of the first one. In moments of high stakes, speed without clarity is a path to ruin. The calm mind holds an advantage because it can see the entire landscape, while others are trapped in tunnel vision, focused only on the immediate threat. Calmness allows you to scan the whole field, noticing opportunities and risks others miss. You conserve energy, refusing to burn it on the useless fires of panic. And when you finally act, your move is deliberate, often surprising those who mistook your stillness for inaction. The calm mind also earns trust because it does not amplify fear. In tense situations, emotions are contagious. Panic breeds panic, and doubt spreads like a virus. But calm is also contagious. It does not ignite, it settles. It slows the frantic pulse of a room, reminding everyone that rational thought is still possible. It gives them permission to breathe. This is why leaders who maintain their composure become figures people rally behind. It is not only about their decisions, but about the atmosphere they create, one where others can think clearly too. An authority is born from this calmness. When you are the one who can hold your ground, others begin to see you differently. They remember the times you didn't flinch, the moments you stayed present when others retreated. That track record becomes your credibility. People don't just listen to what you say, they believe it, because you have proven you do not lose yourself under pressure. In a world that often rewards loudness over wisdom, that kind of credibility is priceless. But do not mistake calmness for the absence of emotion. It is the mastery of it. The calm mind still feels the pressure, still registers the weight of the moment, but it has learned how to prevent those emotions from hijacking the decision-making process. It is like a skilled pilot flying through turbulence, not because the air is smooth, but because they know how to keep the plane steady despite it. That steadiness inspires confidence, and confidence inspires others to follow. When you remain calm, you protect your own mental resources. Panic is exhausting. It burns through focus and drains patience, leaving you scattered. Calmness, on the other hand, is sustainable. It keeps your thinking sharp for as long as the situation requires. In any long challenge, a project, a negotiation, a relationship, the ability to think clearly for the entire duration is often more important than any single brilliant move. This advantage becomes even clearer when you realize that calmness is not common. Most people do not train for it. They allow their environment to dictate their emotional state, reacting to life instead of preparing for it. This means that if you make calmness your discipline, you will distinguish yourself instantly. And this quality doesn't just serve you in the moment, it shapes your reputation over time. You become the one people can count on when things get rough, the call they make when the stakes are high. That reputation becomes a key that opens doors, a foundation for influence, and a source of quiet power that remains long after the noise has faded. None of this happens by accident. The calm mind is forged in the everyday moments, when it would be easier to lose your patience, to react without thinking, to join the chaos instead of holding the line. It is built in how you handle minor setbacks, how you treat people when you're frustrated, how you choose to focus on solutions instead of complaints. Every one of those choices is a rehearsal for a bigger stage. And when that stage appears, when the pressure is real and the outcome truly matters, you will not have to force calm upon yourself. You will simply inhabit it, stepping into a role you have been practicing all along. You will stand in the middle of the storm, aware of its strength but rooted in your own. You will see the panic around you, but it will not dictate your next move. You will speak, and people will listen, not because you demanded authority, but because you have already earned it. In the end, the calm mind is the ultimate advantage because it is the rarest. Anyone can seem strong when life is easy, but to remain steady when others are unraveling, to see clearly and decide wisely when it matters most, that is more than a skill. It is a form of power, and it is a power you can begin to build right now. Calm is not a destination you arrive at. It is not a flag you plant once and for all. It is a choice, renewed with every breath, in moments both vast and minuscule, until it becomes the very fabric of who you are. Every day, life will present you with opportunities to honor this commitment, or to break it. Someone will test your patience. Something will disrupt your plans. A piece of news will try to pull you into panic. And in those moments, the question is always the same. Will you hold your center, or will you surrender your peace to the chaos of the moment? Staying calm is a practice, and like any practice, it demands consistency. You do not go to the gym once and expect to be strong forever. You do not meditate once and expect to be at peace for a lifetime. Calmness works the same way. It is a discipline that must be renewed daily. The challenge is that the choice is often made in fleeting moments you barely notice. It's not always in a dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it's when a car cuts you off in traffic, or your phone buzzes with a message that could wait, or you're interrupted mid-thought and must decide between frustration and focus. These are the moments that truly forge you, not because of their magnitude, but because of their frequency. Each time you choose calm, you reinforce a muscle that will be ready when the stakes are high. And there will be times when the stakes are high. The storm will come. The setback will hit. The person who knows exactly how to provoke you will try again. But if you have been practicing, those moments will not overwhelm you. Calm is not numbness. You will still feel the rising tide of emotion, but you will have learned how to navigate the wave rather than be crushed by it. You will have created the space to breathe, to think, to decide. That is the power of making calm a way of life. It is also a commitment to yourself that no one else can make for you. You can surround yourself with grounded people and design a peaceful environment. But ultimately, you are the one who chooses how to respond. This doesn't mean you will never lose your composure. You will. We all do. But the commitment shows in what you do next. Do you spiral into frustration, or do you reset and return to your center? The goal is not perfection in calm, but resilience in it. The ability to come back to stillness again and again. When calmness becomes your default, you are no longer a ship tossed on the waves of the world. You are no longer at the mercy of other people's moods, mistakes, or opinions. Your life begins to emanate from your core, guided from the inside out, rather than being dictated from the outside in. The benefits of this go far beyond surviving hard times. Your decisions improve. Your relationships deepen because you listen more and react less. Your work benefits from clarity instead of haste. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to trust yourself, a quiet, unshakable confidence that whatever comes, you will meet it with steadiness. Over time, others will notice. They will sense it in the way you speak, the way you handle setbacks, the way you refuse to match the chaos around you. They will begin to rely on you, not because you are perfect, but because you are steady. In a culture that rewards urgency and noise, the quiet confidence of a calm soul is magnetic. But the final commitment to calmness is not for anyone else. It is about the relationship you have with yourself. It is a declaration that your peace is a fortress worth defending, that your clarity is a treasure worth guarding, that your own mind is a sanctuary worth fortifying, day after day. It is understanding that calmness is not a gift you wait to receive, but a skill you earn through repetition, patience, and choice. So you wake each morning, knowing the day will test you in unpredictable ways, and you make the decision anyway. You choose to carry calm into every meeting, every conversation, every unexpected turn. You treat each test as another chance to reinforce what you have built. In the end, Staying calm is not about avoiding storms or difficult people. It is about becoming the one who can walk through them without losing yourself. When calm is your way of life, no storm can truly shake you, no person can completely unbalance you, and no setback can define you. You remain grounded, not because the world has grown gentle, but because you have chosen to be unbreakable. And it is this choice, made day after day, that forges calmness from a fleeting impulse into an unbreakable part of your very being. Wherever your journey leads from this day forward, always remember, calm is your greatest weapon, your truest ally, and your unshakable foundation. Cherish it. Embody it. Let it be the compass that guides you through every storm. If this message resonated within you, carry that momentum forward. Explore one of the videos now appearing on your screen, for they will guide you even deeper on this path. Thank you for being a part of the Stoic Journal. Your journey toward unshakable strength and profound clarity is only just beginning.